Welcome to another episode. My name is Dean Vass. You can find me on X at hashtag Kangaroos, Instagram hashtag Kangaroos podcast. Tonight I am back with the one and only Jesse Cardinal to chat about the men's program. It's all been about the women lately, and rightfully so. Going undefeated, winning flags for fun, and so forth. Now, Jesse, welcome. It's been a long time, but let's start with what you had on Tuesday night. You had the honour of being with the North recruiting team doing the Q&A through your work. Tell us about that and how it all went.
Yeah, it was a funny one. So the official recruitment partner, obviously off-field recruitment partner of North Melbourne, invited me to an event. Ironically enough, I worked out halfway through that they were trying to headhunt me for a role. So not North, that would have been a dream come true. But it was. Anyway, they made an interesting night. But yeah, got to tour the facilities, got to go down to the gym. Took a picture of the weight board in terms of how all the boys are going at the moment. There was some really interesting stuff in terms of who's peaking in the different areas. Lucky enough to see Crocker and some of the North girls who were still on the beers, which is good to see, and rightfully so, like you said. And then got to sit down with Rawlings and First Field. I submitted a few questions that I'd put up on my X, and a few people had asked me questions. So I submitted all of them. They only answered one of them, unfortunately, and it was probably the one that I didn't want them to answer. But that's okay. They answered some really good questions from other people. And they also made some comments during their during their talk, which I thought was, some of it was really positive and some of it was maybe a little bit of a concern, but it's all about the positive vibes now, Dean. I've listened to the fans, and they're going to get 12 months of positivity from me, even if we get beaten every week, which we're not. I've got us on 11 wins.
Well, okay. Well, we'll get more into that. We're going to get your expectations going into the year now after the recruiting and after, draft picks and so forth. But let's just go back to how it all went. Obviously, Rawlings was there. So, what were some of the questions that people did ask?
Yeah. So look, the one that I got to ask that was part of the fans, because you could pre-submit some and then they took some hands up. The one that they answered was around what can our men's program take from the women's program. It was phrased a little bit differently to that, and it was a great question. From Rue Tragic, actually, on X, and what they spoke about is, we're obviously at different stages, and that means a massive difference in terms of where we're at as a list. They did admit, Rawlings said, look, when the women's program, Rawlings took credit. He said, I appointed Crocker, so I'm going to take all the credit. But he did say, look, when we brought the women's program in, because we came in the second year, the draft laws were extremely favourable. And he goes, we're not going to deny that. We got the best run at it of any club in terms of when we joined and the rules. He goes, it would be like the equivalent of us taking Bont, Butters, Dacos, like joining the comp and just being able to take them all. And he goes, we did that with, Carney, Emma King, Jazzy Garner, etc. We're just able to pillage. And he said that made a massive, that was a massive advantage. But the biggest thing has been the culture they've been able to build. We were known from the start as a club who invested in women's football equally to men's football. He goes, I can tell you now, there are still women's clubs out there that get changed in portable changing rooms in the AFLW right now. He goes, we don't have that. We had women's facilities built straight off the bat that they could work. And he goes, we have the men's program and women's program continuously work with one another, and both get a lot out of it. And they said there's just there's a thing around the competition around, women wanting to come to North Melbourne because of how much we invest and how much we value the program. So that was really, really positive. They said with the men's, we're trying to build that culture, obviously. Thursfield did say on that topic, and to probably expand a little bit more, he said one of the big things is the football managers and getting them on side, how you attract a player and how you get young kids who you're interviewing to be keen about coming to North Melbourne is generally through the manager, making them obviously, try and sell it to their client. But he said, look, in the last 3 or 4 years, the kids they're excited to play football, but they're not necessarily excited to come to North because of where we've been at. And he said this year in particular, with our draft picks and all of the kids that they interviewed, were excited at coming to North Melbourne as a prospect. So all of the kids they interviewed, and they interview hundreds of kids. all of them were, yeah, we think North's on the way up. And there is a feel from the younger players around the comp that we are heading into a period of sustained success. So he said that's a really important thing that you don't necessarily see from the outside, is just what the players talk amongst themselves as a playing group across the AFL and across the juniors. And he said, what I can tell you is, in the women's program, they all talk. There's a want to come to North. He goes, I can tell you now, the younger players, the underage players coming through, there is an acknowledgement from them that it will be exciting to come to North. And he goes, I can tell you that was the biggest change in the interviews from previous years to this year. So that was really exciting to hear, because he that makes, a big difference, obviously. Probably the next thing that he spoke about was around probably the funny one was around recruiting. Obviously, it was aimed at recruiting. That was the whole theme of the night. Thurstfield talked about when he interviewed Dusty. He talked about the different interviews and going into interviews and having to put stuff aside. Rawlings made a bit of an admission, which I just felt Will Phillips in my head the whole time he was talking about it. He said, "Oh, when I got the job," he goes, "you're very biased. You go into interviews and you value players who played similar to you or similar to the players that you admired. So you go for a certain caliber of person." He kind of admitted that he got it wrong the first few years. It was interesting, but I understand where he was coming from. And he goes, where Firstfield is very good. He goes, I learned a lot from him. He goes, I brought him in because I wanted him, his experience. He goes, I learned a lot from him, is that he's able to park that. And then, yeah, Firstfield said he interviewed Dusty. It was the worst interview he's ever done in his entire life. Didn't want to talk to any of the interviewers. Didn't want to be there. Didn't care. Just knew a club was going to pick him up and he'd be happy. And obviously he turned into what he turned into. They spoke about how Finn O'Sullivan's interview was terrible. Apparently, the second worst he's ever done. It was just, he didn't want to be there. He doesn't want to talk to people. He doesn't care, but he just loves football. And Rawlings kind of said, that's not the type of player he would have traditionally gone for. But it's just opening your mind to looking at different players, even though that they're, different to you, which is positive. Look, the other one was obviously they talked about our draft picks from this year. It was pretty odd. Look, I think everyone's spoken about it. Our first pick, he'll play round one. They all but admitted that he has already come into the side and said, well, I'm playing round one. He's got the confidence. He's cocky. He gets under people's skin, but he's come into the team and he's already said to everyone, I'll be playing round one. I'm taking your spot. I'm taking your spot. He's getting, he's agitating. He's a different type of player, and they really like that. They said around Threadgold, he looks really well, moves really well, needs to take Aiden Corr's spot. Now, I don't know what you think about that. I didn't have Aiden Corr in my best team. I probably have Logue, Dawson and Common as my three key backs if we play three key backs at the moment. I didn't have Corr anywhere near it. It was just weird that they referenced Corr and said, he's got to take Aiden Corr's spot, experienced defender. Like, Rawlings, what are you talking about, mate? He should be in playing for Shepparton or something. He's way past it. But Rawlings reckons he's a superstar. Really talked him up. So obviously at the end of the day, Rawlings has nothing to do with match committee. But there was just an interesting comment of how they value Corr. They spoke about a little bit about Spargo. I think they took him on character. They all knew what type of person he was. I think they think he can add to the group a bit of experience, but also just some good character for the group in terms of being able to build the kids up. So they mentioned that, which was interesting. What else did they mention? I think I've covered most of them, haven't I?
Yeah, just one more, on that. Any mention? I know it's about recruiting, but any mention of Horne-Francis and the
yes? No, thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely, they did. They spoke about players wanting to leave. How do you retain players? It was built on how do you retain players? How do you attract players? Rawlings said for the last 5 years that when he joined the club, he goes, we were paying 100 for. We'll get to Horne-Francis, but he goes, we were paying 105% of the salary cap, and we were 15th on the ladder, which is not a good spot to be. He goes, for the last 5 years now, we're paying 95% of the salary cap, so we get to bank money every year that we can then overspend. And their intent is to go and spend on someone when the time is right. They said, we didn't want to throw money at someone this year. What's the point? He goes, it's not, we need to pick our right moment to do so. And they spoke around Ben Mackay And, the offer he got, and they said, we chose not to match it because honestly, we didn't think he was worth it. We didn't think he was worth that money. And we're not prepared to pay someone like that when he's not the best performing backman in the team. That was what they said. They said, we felt like we have better backmen than Ben Mackay, and he wouldn't have been worth it over who we've got. So that's probably fair enough, maybe. So, yeah, they said the only two players we've lost is Ben Mackay, who we opted to not match, and Horne-Francis. I'm going to drop a tweet about that now that you've prompted my memory. His exact comments were, I think it's well documented, and I think that I can say this openly. We felt that it was a massive win to get him out of the club. A massive win to get him out of the club, because we don't want players here who don't want to be here, which is, yep, that's it. And we don't want that type of personality.
Yeah, I think he even mentioned that when he traded him, that there was character concerns there.
Oh, 100%. It was just the way he phrased it was very blunt in terms of just what type of character he was. Henny said, look, we got Sheasel and Wardlaw out of that deal. I felt like jumping up and saying, Rawlings, mate, you didn't. You gave up pick one and Horne-Francis for Sheasel and Wardlaw. Realistically, you should have got a lot more, mate. But he is right. We got Sheasel and Wardlaw, and they're exemplary characters, and they look like fantastic football players. So no complaints there. But yeah, he was very, very straight on Horne-Francis. So yeah, it was a good question.
Yeah, no, that is a good question. Just with recruiting now, you mentioned when they interview players, and some of them haven't interviewed quite well. Finn O'Sullivan's one of them.
Yeah.
What sort of process do they go through when they look at drafting a type of player? Do they go through their background checks? I know sometimes, when I've done interviews, I've had to look at people's social media to see if there's any sort of tweets there or anything like that. Is there anything like that, or is it just...
no, 100%. So Rawlings said when he got there, and they've gone through proper recruitment training now and some of the techniques to use. But when he got there, he would walk out with all of the recruiters after an interview, and he would speak first. This is Rawlings. And he goes, the problem is when you're the boss and you speak, the younger people around you, if they're not comfortable disagreeing with you, will conform. And you kind of have a bias. So you come out and say, oh, that interview was crap. So then the next person who interviews him, if someone else does from the panel, or the people around you start perceiving it was crap. So what they've taken the approach of is him first, Phil, the younger recruiters will all do the interview. The youngest, most least experienced will talk first and give his perspective, because they generally, younger people, different perspectives. So you get all of the different, and then he'll go last, Rawlings. That was an interesting point, especially because, the kids coming in are 17, very, very different type. That was one of the interesting ones. From an evaluation, so every single kid goes through an extremely thorough psychological test beforehand. So the psychologist goes through every player and then gives the results of that to the recruiting staff, and then they take that into the interview process. They said there is a lot of players who North Melbourne goes into the draft who are highly rated, who have already got a black line through their name because of either how they interviewed or the psychological test.
Oh, wow.
They'll either crack under pressure. There's just some obvious concerns around the traits of them. So that was an interesting point as well, just around, different personality types. I think one other thing to say that they've changed in terms of their drafting technique and what type of players they look for is, and this probably talks to Mukunda a little bit in terms of our last pick, is one of the things that Thirstfield is very big on is how does a player improve in their final year, in terms of their final year in the before they come into the AFL. And he uses Bont as the kind of idea there that he wasn't highly rated until in his draft year. No one was talking about him. By the end of the year, he went top 5 in that draft. And it's just, where's that ceiling when you see a large spike in their performance over that year? And they kind of, without saying the name, they pretty much said that that's where they had gone in this year and previous years. And I don't think they were referring to the first two. They would have been referring to Mukunda, knowing that when he wasn't injured, they were very keen on his ceiling. And I think it's the same with our last pick last year. name escapes. Yeah, Urquhart. I think, he came from a long way back, and they're throwing, sure, they're throwing the dice a little bit. They're picking a random card, but it's because they've shown enormous growth or ability to spike in that last year, and they're excited to see where they go. And that's a bit of a technique that, they've started to implement as well. Because some players do plateau, and then you kind of know what you're getting, or you think you're going to get someone who improves, but you don't.
Just with improvement, do they look at this guy was averaging 15 possessions a game. Now all of a sudden he's averaging 25 in the second half of the year. What the hell's going on here? Do they start looking at that and they just think,
a mix of that. Someone did ask the question, how do you measure raw talent in terms of someone's ability to turn a game? And that's kind of where they used that. They said, if you go from averaging 5 disposals the year before and you're nowhere near it, and then in your second year you're averaging 20, sure, you're not averaging 25, 30, but your ability to improve over that time, it's less around the raw numbers and more around the trend of the numbers. That's kind of where they hinted to.
Okay. And just probably one last thing about this. Was there any mention that, over the last few years, the club have drafted a lot of midfielders and maybe one too many midfielders?
Yes, but it was cryptically said. I think the other thing they said as well is what they do in terms of players. They talked about, and maybe you're one of the fans can help me here. They talked about over the last few years, they've ended contracts of players early because they are not the right personality or not the right person to be in the club. They said, we're happy to terminate someone's contract if they are detrimental to the club. Can you think of anyone whose contract we've ended early or paid out?
I can't think of one in recent time.
I couldn't put someone together. Maybe someone will. I'll ask on X after the fact. But
could it be Eddie Ford? Could he be one of them? I know he didn't play last.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. One thing they did speak about is when they're planning to move a player on, the first thing they do is they look at what they were good at and what their greatest deficiency are, and they sit down as a team and go, can we improve that deficiency? That one thing that is stopping them from being an AFL grade player, is that fixable? And if it's not, they said, we'll terminate the contract as early as we can. Because they go, there's no point in us wasting the time. We'd rather spend the money and move them on and get someone who we can improve. So that was just a really interesting comment. I'm not sure who that was aimed at. I can't think of anyone who that was aimed at.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either myself, to be honest. I know it happened a couple of times in the 90s. There's a couple of players that pretty much just disappeared with the 4 or 5 rounds to go, and they just went back to their hometown. But I could not remember in recent years anything like that happening.
Yeah, I'll drop a note on X later and just see if someone will be able to find someone. But it was an interesting comment to make.
No, definitely is. I guess what might have come up also is the challenges of trying to recruit players. I guess that would have come up as well. Obviously, a lot of people talk about, we should be able to get this and that, and all we end up is with someone like a Charlie Spargo. I'm not having to go on Charlie Spargo, but he's a free player.
It was a mix of that and a mix of, if we go out right now and spend X amount of money on a player, one, you've got to attract them to the club, but two, it does unsettle the locker room. And they spoke about having a young team like we do, of really talented young players. It can easily go the wrong way if you go overspend. And I think what they said is, you can't just go get the best player in the comp. You've got to go get the best player in the comp who's also the best fit for your club. They need to be able to be someone you're confident can come into the club, added experience, sure, and add being a bloody good player, but someone who can come in and actually help grow the club and its culture. And they said that's equally important to them. And that's what they'll target. So, they did talk about, obviously it's difficult, but success leads to being able to attract people, and they're not prepared to overplay players who they actually were very critical of St Kilda, which is really interesting. They said, you can look at what St Kilda did. They went and spent all this money and got all these players, and They go, who knows what that is for their culture? He goes, we'd rather go spend the money on players who are good for the culture rather than spend money on players because they can play football, just play football. Because putting all the bits of the pieces together, they might be beautiful, but unless they fit together like a jigsaw, then you're not really building an AFL list. So it'll be interesting to see how St Kilda go. But yeah, they were quite critical of St Kilda overspending and said it should, it probably, if they can't have immediate success, will have a detrimental effect on the rest of their players who won't want to be there.
Yeah, he's almost saying that it's better to take the patient approach.
That's effectively what they said. Look, I think I said to you before I joined, they were very confident that we've got sustained success coming. They, Firstfield said he helped recruit the Richmond team that won the Flags, and he goes, I can tell you now, we have the best young talent in the comp. He goes, other clubs know that we have the best young talent in the comp. And I've never seen a man more sure that we are going to have sustained success. So, hey, I'll take it.
Good sales pitch.
Yeah.
Definitely. Look, one more one. I know I keep saying that, but just with delistings, now it seems like they're a bit harsh, but it sounds a bit, well, if they're no good, we're just going to delist them. How tough are those conversations, and who does those conversations, I guess, because you're telling a player, well, we don't think you're up to the level, and that's their future. That's what they've been dreaming of, and their life has been cut short. They have to find a trade or they have to find a proper full-time job now. I mean, that must be tough conversations. That'd probably be the toughest part of the job, I would assume.
Yeah, so generally that comes from a mix of people. Generally, it's in their end-of-year interview, which Clarko is the one who has to kind of deliver that, or all the line coaches rather than the recruitment staff. They kind of get to walk away from it a little bit. But yeah, that's done by the coaching staff. So they didn't comment too much about how difficult that was. They did say, I think Rawlings probably had a little bit more experience from the list management perspective before, obviously, Viney took over. Just around, managing the list and managing the players. But you at the end of the day, you just need to focus on what's best for the club. Did I lose you, mate? Don't even know if I'm still on air. Oh no, I'm running the show now. All right, I'm not sure if anyone can hear me or not. Not sure if I'm even live. How do I see anyone in the chat? Anyone can drop a comment. Let me know if I'm running the show. If so, I'll keep telling some stories.
Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen, but I lost internet. The internet just absolutely crashed on me for some unknown reason. But I did find that a fascinating chat with Jesse there. So I'll see if I can get him back on. So just bear with me at this moment. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. I'll see if I can get him back on. Sorry about this, gentlemen, boys and girls, I should say. But yeah. Don't know what happened there. Just completely cut out. So I'll see if I can get him back. I'll send him another link and see how we go. But I did find that a fascinating interview. So I'm sorry, I'm just seeing. Okay. There we go. There we go. Yeah, but I did find that a fascinating interview. Just the process of the recruiting, how far the clubs go this day and age. So yeah, I'll sort of see how that goes. But yeah, obviously, it was interesting getting their thoughts on players that have come to the club as well. I was interested to get that, how players like Lockie Daviston, there was a little bit of talk there. Jesse sort of says that he does have a bit of attitude. He's already coming in and saying that he's going to take players' spots and so forth. So, yeah, which is really good to see. Blake Threadgold, look, he seems like a really high character individual as well. So an intercepting defender from South Australia. So it's amazing how much a person's character, not just football ability. I guess all these players are very talented, but their character, how much it makes a difference in them getting to a football club. And yeah, even little things like, well, Jesse has come back, I think.
Yeah, I thought I lost.
Yeah, you're in the middle of it. Sorry about that, Jesse. But yeah, my internet just completely cut out.
Right.
But,
was I still live? I was.
Yeah, well, you're talking, but
fantastic.
You were talking, I think, but then it just went into the Wi-Fi just went off for a period of time. I'm not too sure what happened there, but we're back now, Jesse. Yeah, you mentioned that. Obviously the coaches go through the delisting process and they have the conversations with that. The recruiting team get out of that. So I think we've pretty much touched on everything, unless you want to add anything else.
No, I think that's pretty much it from the event in a nutshell. We'll have to find out who they were talking about around terminating contracts, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So you'll have to put a tweet out for that because I can't remember that ever happening in recent time. Anyway, now we did have 3 draft selections this year. Lockie Daviston, you already mentioned him. And the club have already mentioned him. He's got a bit of an attitude, similar to Nick Watson type. Blake Threadgold. Now, you had him in the background there, but that disappeared when we cut out. Now, yeah, an intercepting defender from South Australia, and Hugo Mukunda, a high half forward with good football IQ from the Geelong Falcons. Has had a lot of injuries in his short career, broken hand, stress fractures, hamstring issues. It looks like the club are very keen on Lockie Daviston. They think he's going to be in the round 1 team. I think he thinks he's going to be in the round 1 team. But I guess it's good to get players that we kind of need, like a Blake Threadgold. We kind of need to find that next defender, don't we?
Yeah, look, I couldn't have been happier with the recruitment. You can judge the last pick all you want, but there were some stupid comments on the night saying, Rawlings is incompetent because of the, and he should be shot pretty much because of the last pick. Those first 2 picks, I went into the draft with a bit of especially once I knew we were going to move up the board, but I went into the draft with a bit of an order of who I would want. And the 2 players we got, in all honesty, are the number 1 and number 2 lists, on my list. They were those 2 were an A+ draft haul. Just getting those 2, they make a massive difference. Threadgold is far more advanced than Dawson or Whitlock were in their draft years as a defender, as a pure defender. Far more advanced than them. Should be able to play much earlier than probably at a more higher level than them. No heat on him, and he's obviously a ripping bloke, and responded to a lot of people's comments and stuff, which is great. While the Flying Mullet, we need to come up with a nickname for him other than that, but I'm running with the Flying Mullet because that's what I think Toomey called him. Yeah, look, he's a ripper. We need that player. We missed Watson. We made a decision not to go with Watson, and now we've gone someone very, very similar. It plays a little bit higher up the ground, can play midfield a little bit. Not that we obviously need that, but it's good to be able to, have some extra talent to come up the ground. But he kicked an absurd amount of goals this year across all formats. He kicks goals for fun. A lot of people talked about that last pick. Should we have taken Ludovic, the key forward, but all I can say is the same as everyone else. Yeah, sure. Toomey and everyone had him rated in the top 25, top 30, and he drifted, past our third pick to the next pick. A lot of clubs passed him up. So there's something there, maybe character, I'm not sure. So, look, I would have liked another key forward. I still think we're light on for key position players. The club obviously doesn't think that. They think that we're sweet. But I don't think you can assume all of them are going to pay off. So I think you've got to, invest in more. But look, it is what it is. Mukunda could end up being a little bit different in terms of the type of player. And he's not a pure mid.
No. No, he did have spells there for the Falcons last year, but he seems like he's more of a high half forward, in the mould of like a Charlie Spargo.
Yeah.
A little bit like that. So he adds competition for spots.
Well, he's meant to have good kick, some good pace. They reckon that he's got elite pace. Could be someone who they trial at half back or something. They might see him as a winger. I've heard people talk about that. I still think that the wings are maybe an area that they're not 100% certain on in the long term. So
we'll wait and see, I suppose. Look, he's going to develop in the VFL next year. He's not going to be, unless if something extraordinary happens and his form's just too good that they have to put him in for a few rounds into the season. But Lockie Daviston, it's interesting that he can play up the ground. In the grand final, he did play the first half or close to the first half on a halfback flank. So yeah, that that seems to be our go position if a play doesn't work out, Jesse. So
I don't think he'll be playing there.
No, I wouldn't think so. I think
he's in my starting team on field, small forward.
Well, it sounds like the club are pretty keen on him too. So,
well, I mean, he's taking the spot of, there's not really a lot of competition for the small forward spot, and they will play a small forward. It will just be whether or not they want to play two. They obviously played a little bit of Bancha and Constanti at the end of the year. They might be keen on having two in there, but I don't know how he can fit two. I'd have him and another pressure type, maybe a Spargo or something like that. But you can't fit him in a Banch or him in a Constanti, in my opinion.
A bit undersized too. So yeah, it's yeah. I mean, you could if they're good enough, but is Jacob Constanti good enough? I'm not too sure at this stage. He only kicked 10 goals last year. So
it depends who you ask, I suppose. But
yeah, well, that's true. Maybe if you ask Jake Constanti, you might say he's good enough, but we'll have to say. Let's see. Now, after all is said and done, now our list's pretty much done for next year. Your expectations are 11 wins.
Yep.
You've said that. Soft
absolutely.
draw as well. More growth with the young guys in Harry Sheasel, Wardlaw, and so forth. So that puts us near the top 10 now. So that's pretty high expectations, Jesse.
Yeah, look, I think, in Mark and our chat said 10 wins has to be an absolute minimum. I actually think he said we need to finish top 10. Otherwise, it's a failure. Now that it is a top 10. Look, I tend to agree in terms of 10 wins. Looking at our draw, if you go through our draw, there is at least 10 games there that we should be right in. Now, I also said that I thought we were going to finish with 2 more wins this year, being the St Kilda and the Melbourne games at the end, and we screwed that up. But, if you look at the clubs we should be better than, Richmond, West Coast, Melbourne, they've lost a lot of players. Carlton are going to be questionable, and we smashed them effectively, in the last game we played them in. And there's probably, Essendon around the mark. Sure, they're getting some players back, and we play a lot of those teams twice, and then you're going to steal a win from a Port Adelaide, steal a win from, someone else. I don't see how, if we finish with less than 10 wins, it'd be a failure. We finish with more than that, I'd be pretty happy. I think aiming for top 10, sure, that would be great, but it's asking a lot, isn't it?
It's a big leap up, isn't it, from 5.5 to 10 wins, and then, I mean, with this finals thing now, with the 10th team making finals, I'm not too worried about finishing 10th just to try and get 10th. It's more building for that team that's going to finish top 4, top 6.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, for sustained. I don't think it's going to do much finishing 10th with 10 wins or whatever it is. So,
sure, it counts as a final win, I suppose, but I think everyone's going to still see it as a token win. If you finish 10th and happen to beat 7th or whatever
Seventh.
then I think it's still a bit of a token win.
Yeah, look, I think Essendon fans will take it at the
moment. They're the only ones who'll be counting it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But no, them they're probably finish 11th, 12th anyway. So, yeah. Now, we only recruited the one experienced player, and that's Charlie Spargo. Do you expect him to get a game early round one next year? I think he would if he recruits someone like that. And it was interesting he made some comments about it. Well, the club made some comments about him that they recruited him based on his high character traits.
Well, they said, Viney knows him, Clarko knows him well, Rawlings knows him well. They know exactly what they're getting. So they all sound confident. I think a lot of it was based on his character. I tend to agree. I think he'll play in the team. And to be fair, he might be more value than a bench or something like that. They obviously, they've talked about, Barlow talked about needing to get more players who can apply pressure in the team and be more at the man and move the ball quickly. So if that's one of the focuses, then sure, might make sense. I have him in my team because of the same reason as you. You don't draft someone not to take them, but we'll see how he goes in his preseason. But I mean, we've signed him up for 3 years, 4 years, 3 years.
3 years. Yeah, it seems like a long-term contract for a player that was on the fringes of keeping a list spot at Melbourne, who are about the similar team to us right now.
Well, that's exactly right. He played VFL pretty much all of last year and didn't have great numbers. So
no, when he played in the senior team, it was pretty ordinary. 1 goal in 10 games. So we'll have to wait and see. Look, maybe a couple of years ago, you get that player from a couple of years ago where he's not far from a premiership.
Oh yeah, but how often? I mean, look, it happens. And but you know what? He might do it, and we'll be he might do it, and we might be shocked, and it might pay out, but it may not. So.
Yeah, it's a bit of a throw at the stumps. It's a throw at the stumps from Fallen Leg on the boundary line. This previously, but I can't remember now. But going into the season now, where do you expect Colby McKercher and Finn O'Sullivan to be next season? What positions do you have them penciled for?
I've got Colby on the half back line. I still want to see him get some midfield time, but I have him on the half back line because I think that's what they'll do. Finn O'Sullivan I have either on the half forward flank or on the wing. But he can also go half back, but they don't need him. They don't need him there.
No, well, with the Finn O'Sullivan, I think a good player comp is Hugh McCluggage from Brisbane Lions. So he spent his first few years on the wing, and then he's moved into the midfield the last couple of years. I don't mind developing his craft. I think he's very highly skilled, similar type of player, good penetrating kick. Do you see that?
I think that's
a prototype.
I think that's a good comparison. Probably better aerially in terms of his ability to take marks and stuff like that. Maybe not as silky, but yeah, I think it's a pretty good comparison. I'd be playing him on the wing. He should have a wing to himself.
And McKercher, you've got almost playing as like a Dane Zorko role. We still need that. We still need someone back there.
I don't want him near
that can run and create.
Yeah, I don't want him near the forward line. It didn't work for him. I like him on the half back line, or I want to see him in the midfield. I'd be happy with him on the wing, but not half forward flank. It doesn't suit him at all. It just seems like a waste.
Yeah, one of the biggest weaknesses last year, Jesse, was transitioning the ball from back 50 to forward 50. We just don't have that type of play. He's pretty much only one in that back 50 that can possibly do it. Can break a line. We would love to see him in the midfield. There's no doubt about that. But we still need someone to give that rebound 50. Riley Hardiman looks like he's going to be a good bet. But the jury's still out on a lot of other players like Josh Goda, Luke McDonald's towards the end of his career. And there's others that we're not too sure about. So it probably makes sense for McKercher still to play as a halfback flanker next year.
Agreed.
No, fair enough. And who do you expect to be captain next season, Jesse? Jesse, face of the club for next year. I'd say he's in position A at this stage, but yeah, I mean, things could change.
I've got Larky. Yeah.
I've got and Sheasel like in the leadership group.
Sheasel vice. Sheasel stays vice and Larky's captain. It just makes the most sense.
Okay, and at this stage you'd have to think that. How are you feeling about the whole Josh Simpkin thing right now? Have you happy to have him back in the fold?
Yeah, I've got no issue with it. You just move on, like any other sport in the world. No, I agree. He shouldn't be captain because he obviously doesn't have the commitment and he's got things going on. Shouldn't be captain, but I've got no issue with him staying in the team. I still think he'll give 100%. Wing.
Yeah,
wing.
Yeah, wing. Yeah, I think he seemed to play pretty well there. So I was a bit surprised like that trade request. I don't think we talked about it, but that trade request sort of saying I want to play more midfield minutes. But I actually thought he did pretty well on the wing.
The last two games he looked good, didn't he? I thought he looked pretty good coming off the wing. Obviously, he wants to get inside mid, and he would have been good as an inside mid at Collingwood. I think he would have been a lot better than people think he is as a player in a good team. And yeah, look, I have him on the wing. I have him and O'Sullivan, my two wingers. Powell's probably the other one who they do rate at the club. They highly rate him, but I think they've accepted that he's not an inside midfielder. So whether or not they play him wing or half forward flank or rotate people around those, that's probably what they do. But I also think he's one who should be playing wing.
Tom Powell.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No.
I think he's inside. Middays are over.
With Josh Simpkin on it. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think those last few weeks, I don't think he might have had like one or two CBAs, didn't he? He got phased out pretty quick. There's a contract year coming up for Tom Powell as well. So I think he's a better player than just playing forward pocket as well, because that's what we'll seem to be doing with him towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I think he could play wing. He's so much classier when he's got time. And on the inside, he just bangs on the boot. It's weird. He's classy with his hands, but when he's in the middle, he's just not classy. You don't see it. I think he looks better when he's on a flank or the wing. Probably a wing.
Yeah, that's I mean, we've got a few players that could probably play on. I think Charlie Spargo that come in, Bakircha, O'Sullivan. There's Dylan Stevens is still thereabouts. Do you still see him as a potential on the wing, or do you sort of see him on?
I've never rated him. I'm not in the Dylan Stevens fan club, so I'm probably a little bit biased. But yeah, I don't have him anywhere near my team. I don't have him in, even with an extended bench this year. I don't have him in the team. Now I think they'll play him, but
fair enough.
But I don't.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I agree with you. I think he'll get a game. I was probably thinking the same as last year. I didn't think he was going to get a game, but he seemed to play more games than I expected. Certainly, I thought he contributed well enough, but the ceiling's not exactly super high for him either. So we'll have to wait and see. But we'll definitely get more thoughts as early next year in the preseason on positional battles. There was talk about Aiden Core. The club seemed to really rate him, Jesse, by the sounds of it.
Might be captain,
Like yourself, I didn't have him in my best 23 version 1 team. I had Griffin Logue, I think.
Yeah. He's not my best team. He's nowhere near it.
Yeah, it's a bit funny, that one. So
it is very funny.
Maybe they got him as a full forward.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe they see him as a third forward. Him, Darling, and Larky, no Trembath.
Oh, geez, don't start that again. Yeah, but there's a lot of players that you're going to have a big year. I think there's 22 uncontracted players for next year. We've got St. Dersmer as well. We don't know. Yeah, we don't know if
we're either going to lose a lot.
Scott, can he get back to...
Well, if we don't perform, we're going to lose players, which is rightfully so.
Oh, they're going to get delisted, Jesse. They probably wouldn't be good enough at other clubs.
Wow.
Well, Zane Dersmer would be good enough, but Bailey Scott, if he has another bad year like this year, then he's gone. And there's a number of others. Robert Hanson is out of contract. He fell away completely. But before I let you go, Jesse, any thoughts on the women's program and how they are ruining the AFLW by winning every game, which is a beautiful sight to see?
And getting the number 1 draft pick from a few years ago, players nominating. Well, it is what it is. You've got other women's programs who just aren't. There are other AFLW clubs who are not taking it seriously, in my opinion.
There's probably half of them I think wouldn't take it seriously, to be honest with you.
Yes, we got a leg up joining the competition in terms of how we attracted the players we did, but the fact that people want to keep coming to us is because we are heavily invested in the women's program, and we were pre-AFLW. So, look, to not lose a game in 2 seasons, it's interesting. It's not good for the game. Like, yes, it's fantastic as a North Melbourne fan, but at the same time, like you go into the games and you kind of think, well, there's North and then there's the rest of the competition, and it kind of deducts from the competition a little bit, in my opinion. That's just me trying to be, as unbiased as possible. It's fantastic to watch, but that's less to do with us. That's more to do with other clubs. It's got nothing to do with us. We're not cheating. We're not doing anything differently. We're not doing anything wrong. We're doing things well. And other clubs need to stop having a whinge and actually invest in their programs and attract players to the clubs. That's just as simple as that.
I just don't think, because the clubs bleed money with AFLW, I just don't think they're going to put the time and investment into it. They're more, and the supporters, 90% of supporters are about the AFL men's program. So they think, who cares? We'll just deal with it. And
Well, then
you can't complain then, can you?
No, then you've just got to cop your lot. If you're not going to invest in it, then cop it.
Yeah, exactly right. So,
but they're absolute superstars, all of them.
No, definitely, showing the way and setting an example for the men's program. That's for sure. Any final words, Jesse, before I let you go?
No, all good, mate. Looking forward to pre-season and seeing what we can put together, and be interesting to see if any of our players get the one-off State of Origin game. It'd be nice to see Sheasel get a game, even if he's just playing half-back flank, or playing, as half forward or something. That'd be nice to see. Because one of the things that which makes me a little bit sad is I think some of the players in our team, if they were in a good team, would be absolute rock stars, and they suffer a little bit because they're North, obviously. But where we are going to become good, and people are going to see how good those players are. But it'd be nice to see one of them get a nod and get to go into that game and get to see how good they are, because there's some good players.
No, it definitely is. Hopefully, I think she's probably the only one that might get in.
Maybe Sherry. Maybe Sherry. They might go the 2 rucks because of you don't want to run one ruck into the ground. Victorian ruckman, Max Gawn and probably Tristan Sherry are the best 2. WA, they'll go like they've got Cameron, they've got Luke Jackson, so they've got a few options as well. Yeah.
Oh, we've got Taylor Go, the second coming of Luke Jackson, Jesse. So
I'm interested to see how he goes next year, because with an extra spot on the bench, it allows you to play a bit more flexibly. So I think he could get games next year.
Oh, definitely. I've actually sneakily snuck him into my round 1 team.
Yeah, I've got him 5th spot. I got him in the 5th bench spot. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So great minds think alike, Jesse. So
yes, I'd be interested to see our teams.
Any final words?
No, not from me, mate.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get that. We'll definitely get the final teams. We'll get version 1 teams and so forth fairly soon. Jesse, thanks so much for coming on. Give us insights into the recruiting. There's a lot of fascinating thoughts on that. Thanks so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to be on.
Have you back. Thank you. Have you back on soon. I'll be back next week. Don't forget, subscribe, leave a comment. I don't know what's going on with my internet tonight, but it's absolutely crap itself. It's going very slow. Jesse is going very slow at the moment. His responses were very delayed, but I'm not too sure what was happening there. But I'll hopefully work on that next time. Anyways, that's it from me. Bye for now, and go Roos.